So in the bioprocess development, I believe that we are still just beginning to scratch the surface of what AI can do and to really see the full potential of it. One thing that I have seen in the industry is the companies like Genentech that have implemented their systems that are AI based and then have reduced their downtime by 50%. So this is where we have already seen some significant improvements, not just in terms of operational efficiency, but also maintaining consistency and quality of the product.
Welcome to the Smart Biotech Scientist podcast. Today, we are diving into the cutting-edge world of AI-driven bioprocess development and emerging technologies in biopharma. I'm thrilled to introduce our guest, Belma Alispahic, the Chief Scientific Officer and co-founder of AnalysisMode based in Helsinki, Finland. Belma is at the forefront of applying artificial intelligence to revolutionize bioprocessing, and she's here to share her insights on how AI is shaping the future of our industry. Whether you're driving to work, catching the train, or just taking a break in the lab, get ready for a fascinating discussion that will expand your horizons and maybe even spark some new ideas for your own work. Let's dive in. Are you juggling the complexities of CMC development while trying to enjoy the beauty of biotech? Have you ever wondered if there's a way to simplify bioprocessing? Welcome to the Smart Biotech Scientist podcast, where we're diving headfirst into the very challenges you face. We're breaking it down, demystifying the jargon, and giving you the keys to unlock your full potential. I'm your host, David Brulman, and I get it. With 15 plus years in the biotech industry, I face the same challenges you do. There's a way to simplify and streamline so you can remove complexity, you can skip trials and errors, deliver without delay your groundbreaking therapy to clinics and market, and still enjoy every single step. Do you want to learn how industry experts and I did it? Grab a cup of coffee and your favorite notebook and pen. Now is the time to take your bioprocessing game to the next level. Let's smarten up biotech. Hey Belma, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you could join us today.
Thank you, David. I'm excited to be here and to share my opinions on the topic and to hear yours as well.
Belma, share something that you believe about bioprocess development that most people disagree with.
I'm going to start with how early do we have to understand the process, together with how early we have to apply certain technologies for them to be efficient. That being said, I'm thinking of integrating AI and process modeling technologies much earlier, and the belief that it's either not necessary or not important enough to invest in it on time. This results then in a lot of issues down the line that we can discuss later, but having the right approach on time should not only accelerate development timelines, but also reduce the resource wastage, operational costs, and then set you for long-term success rather than always react on your problems. You will take on a proactive approach. And I think that's a mind shift that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about mindset and having the end in mind and then doing the right things along the way. So before we will dive into our main topic of today, the AI-driven bioprocess development, Belma, take us back to the moment when biotech first captivated you. What was that spark and how did it lead you down the winding path to where you are today?
I haven't identified the biotech curiosity until much later in life. But ever since I was a child, I was very curious to find out how things work on a very deep level. So my interest was humans, especially human cells. And the universe in the cells. And I always like the combination of engineering together with biology. That's how my brain works. I love the combo. And all of my educational path has actually led me to end up where I am now through my genetics and bioengineering studies, and then applied biotech studies in Uppsala in Sweden, and now doing applied AI in process development and doing business at the same time. That's the new addition that I've added to my passion, but this is where my passion lies. I like to find out how things work. I like to make efficient solutions to solve the problems of whatever that is, especially if it's complex. The more complex it is, the happier I am.
Were there any unexpected turns or aha moments that shaped your journey?
Many, but I think of one pivotal one was during my master's studies, where during one of our courses where we were doing a structure of macromolecules, and I had my first encounter with PyMol, with protein structures, with analyzing them together with some drug design and development softwares. And one of the teaching assistants has, after one of the courses we had, suggested me to do a summer course research intern in a lab there. And I stayed there for the whole year of my master's doing research in computational ligand and drug design. So that was when I realized I really like having biology on a computer. My interest then diverted into AI rather than quantum computing. But this is one of the pivotal moments of the shift.
Fantastic. Before we dive into the AI specifics of bioprocess development, let's look at the development as a whole first, because I'd love to have your take on this aspect. Like, what do you think are the main challenges that we as scientists often encounter in bioprocess development?
There are quite a few. There are, I would say, 3 burning ones, and they keep staying. The first one, I would say, the constant tight deadlines with high expectations. So scientists are under a constant immense pressure to deliver results. And then they're put in a very stringent timeline with sometimes even stringent budgets, which then doesn't allow them to maybe acquire tools that would help them do their work better and with less stress and to manage all of this. The second one is the complexity of the problem that we are working with. The scientists are working with complex biological systems, with cells, with gene therapies, with all of the wonders of science that we are still trying to figure out. And it requires sophisticated tools and approaches to ensure that we understand what we are doing, to ensure that we have experiments that are going to support that. And then it just expands on this complexity. And then the third one I would say is integration of new technologies, which is what I've seen for quite some years now, is the technologies have been developed in the field, but integration of them within the lab, knowing what to choose, has been becoming more and more complex. Now you have way too many options, so you get stressed over having way too many options. So I think it's this, and then on top of that, it's data from all of these technologies that is now still trying to find. The companies are still trying to find a way on how to put the data architecture and data systems in place so they can actually implement certain technologies. These 4, I would say, are the ones that are going to stay because they are also very complex and there are ways to solve them, and we are going to discuss that. But these are the challenges that I would notice are the most painful ones.
Speaking now of the integration of new technologies, we hear a lot about how AI is changing the game in drug discovery. We also know that in bioprocessing, we don't have that much data, or acquiring good data is expensive and difficult. So how is AI revolutionizing the early stages of bioprocess development?
You are quite right. So in the bioprocess development, I believe that we are still just beginning to scratch the surface of what AI can do and to really see the full potential of it. One thing that I have seen in the industry is the companies like Genentech that have implemented their systems that are AI-based and then have reduced their downtime by 50%. So this is where we have already seen some significant improvements, not just in terms of operational efficiency, but also maintaining consistency and quality of the product. And then more and more we are seeing, I would say, AI transforming pet technologies. In the papers I'm reading, the people I meet and the conferences, most of them are using some sort of ML AI model to process the data from the sensor. And it's really necessary to do that in order to achieve more than the traditional methods could have, especially in terms of the data transfer, how everything is modeled, and this real-time aspect of pet technologies, which then correlates to better quality by design as well. Again, we are still early in having to see really tangible effects. I'm really hoping that our work and work of some of our colleagues is going to change that, and we are going to really have some really good case studies that we can talk about. I know that at the moment, many companies are focusing on applying different modeling techniques or AI techniques to existing data sets. And I would really kudos for them, because this is the start that we have to take. I think a lot of companies are on hold and they're waiting for someone to start somewhere and bring this magical outcome without actually putting a lot of effort. And now we are seeing the trend of companies investing in analyzing their data. So now it's really all about sharing the data with companies that can help you implement AI technologies so we can move forward and see the full potential and application and implementation in the industry.
I guess we are all waiting for this magical outcome. Yet there's a lot of hype around AI, and having conversations myself with people in the bioprocessing space, we always ask the question, okay, there's a lot of potential, but what can we really do with it? And Belma, can you walk us through a real world example of how we can use AI and that really enhance precision or the efficiency in your work or in the work of bioprocess scientists?
I can tell you more about the work that we have done. And I'm here going to focus really on what I've just briefly mentioned previously, which is taking a data set that you have already in the lab and really doing a deep dive into it and modeling and seeing what you can take from there. And this is already something where I think AI is going to make a lot of difference. And before I dive deeper into that, I'm just going to briefly touch on the importance and how AI technology has been developed to solve a particular problem. The AI works the best when the problem is very, very well defined. And in this case, in bioprocess development in general, we have defined problems. And then we can define the details of those problems, which is really important. But we have a defined problem, we have data to support that problem, and then we can apply the technology to that. What we have done recently is we have worked with a project that involved around 100 experiments across 4 different bioprocessing projects. So these projects were carried out on different scales, different varying operating conditions, and different cell seeding densities. So there was a lot of things that we were comparing. So what we did is that we were able to model each parameter and process involved in these experiments with a lot of depth and precision. What this means is that we are doing pattern recognition. We are doing deep insights beyond human reach. So we provide detailed heat maps of clear understanding of which parameters were most critical for optimal performance, the exact value ranges of these parameters that they should fall within, what specific actions should be taken, whether it was just adjusting controls, adjusting components, or tweaking certain steps in the process. So this is, I would say, the most important capability of AI in comparison to other modeling techniques. It's really diving deep into the process and really understanding of what happens there. So you can fine-tune the process to the level of precision that is necessary for you. And then from the other side, we have seen our estimates. Now, moving this into the lab is we are expecting once these digital twins developed from this data with our technologies are moved to the lab, we are expecting to see up to 80% experiment reduction in process development. This part doesn't take a lot of time, what I've just described at the beginning. So it can take from 2 to 3 months to 6 months, depending on how much data do you have, how much complex is the problem that you're trying to solve. But after this moment, you have your digital twin that you are going to use either via our platform or you're going to implement it in the lab. Implementation in the lab takes time, but this is what we can do for our scientists in the labs.
How much preliminary work do you have to invest to get to this 80% reduction of experiments? Because I imagine that you have to train your model somehow, perhaps through mechanistic knowledge or past process knowledge, or what do you do before you can actually leverage the power of your trained AI model?
This is the beauty of it. So the beauty of AI, like our now revolution, as we call it, is that we are taking a bottom-up approach, which means that, yes, we are taking into account that we are dealing with science and this is something that has to have scientific meaning. But that comes at the end. We start with the data as for example, what this data set that we got from our partner that had 100 experiments. And from there, we can vouch for the accuracy of our model and our results there. And then it's up to us and up to people that we are partnered with that will decide how much validation is it going to be needed from their side to actually trust the model as well as us. So that can mean half a year, that can mean a year. If we want to run more experiments, going back and forth, that can be 3 months. It really all depends on the scale of implementation as well. And then after that, once it's implemented, I would say that you will reap your benefits immediately. Even in that period of all of this implementation, all of this deep inside work, you're still learning about your process. You're always getting the benefits along the way. So it's not like you're getting the benefit only once you're having this final cherry on the top, which is a wonderful one of the 80% experiment reduction. But it's really important to acknowledge the benefits of these steps along the way as well.
And what are the challenges we have to expect as scientists as we are using AI, as you're using, or like what have you encountered?
It's data. All of the stakeholders are figuring out what can all of us do in order to make sure that we use the data that we have. Data without processing it's nothing. It's wasted. You don't get any knowledge. And I think this is where the industry is going to have to do most work from the companies, from the providers such as ourselves. For our side we are trying to see how do we get to the lab the easiest. So for us, that can be through systems like ELNs and LIMS. And then on them, it's then to do the heavier part maybe of collecting the data and structuring the data. And then there is the whole other infrastructure part. I think this is the part that is the most important one and most challenging one. And then also having really data that is applicable for models. I'm really happy to know that our models have been developed on process development data because there is still variability in it. So we can make sure that accuracy that we are saying for certain predictions and models is tangible and has some quality of the data inside the models. So I think this is also the part for AI that is important, is what is the data that is coming into the models. And then that's also going to be dependent on the data infrastructure. So it's a loop that we are all in and all taking part of. And I think the industry has been taking significant steps forward.
Hey, smart biotech scientists. I hope you've been enjoying our conversation with Belma Alispahic. Belma is the Chief Scientific Officer and co-founder of AnalysisMode. And in part 2 of our conversations, we're going to continue talking about emerging AI technologies. What did you think about today's episode? Please tell us by leaving a review on Apple Podcast or whatever platform you're listening to, because your review means the world to me and I love hearing from you. So thank you very much for tuning in today, and I'll see you on Thursday in part 2. All right, smart scientists. That's all for today on the Smart Biotech Scientist podcast. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on your journey to bioprocess mastery. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. By doing so, we can empower more scientists like you. For additional bioprocessing tips, visit us at smartbiotechscientist.com. Stay tuned for more inspiring biotech insights in our next episode. Until then, let's continue to smarten up biotech.